Hello, dear friends. Welcome to day 17 of this Advent Portrait Sketch Challenge. We're going to be sketching Sio today. Sid, I believe. Sid Johanna, did I read that correctly? On Instagram. Someone from the Kanyo community. And this is such a cool reference image. I'm digging what I did yesterday in the 10-minute portrait sketch. So it was a little bit over 10 minutes. I'm going to see if I do something similar. We've got a very similar kind of thing happening where it's like half of the face really bright and the rest is in shadow. I would like some more darkness engulfing the portrait surrounding Sid's face. And Hannah Marie is here. It was so nice having you in Zoom with us just now. And D'Artagnan and Horik, Ike, good evening. I'll show you some of the sketches that I just did, because every Tuesday I host a Zoom portrait sketch session, and you can all come and join. The link is in the description. Not next week, because it'll be Christmas Eve, and it's the first time in like 5 years of doing these Tuesday sessions that I'm going to skip a week. I haven't skipped a week at all. Every Tuesday, without fail, there has been a 2-hour portrait sketch session, which has been so much fun and so good. Hi, Imola and Klaus and Kiki. So here are my quick sketches. These were 30 seconds in the beginning, and this is the routine that I have every Tuesday. So these were 30 seconds. These were 1 minute sketches, and I think this was either 4 or 6. So these are the longer sketches. But we do 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute, 4 minute, and then 6 minute sketches. And it's just so much fun and such good practice. And at the end of 2 hours, we've done like 24 portrait sketches or something like that. It's just so good. And we tell stories and we laugh, and whatever's going on in the world, we come in to Zoom, hang out and sketch each other. So this is what I did just now. I really like this one of Patricia, and Jane had this awesome perspective, very challenging for many people who were in the room. And yeah, these are the drawings that I just did. So come draw with me every Tuesday in my Zoom room, where we hang out and we do just that. And the theme was standing still. That's how we begun, which somehow led to me vomiting rainbows and having to be cleaned up, and someone else vomiting and then freezing and being pushed outside and their arm falling off. It was very strange. And all of these storytelling prompts inspire some pretty awesome poses. So that's kind of what I get up to every Tuesday. So this is yesterday's portrait, and I really liked working with the calligraphy pen. It's so direct and good. Once the line is there, it's there. That's it. And I felt like after like the ink wash pieces that I had been doing recently, which take a bit more time, it just felt really good to do something that was so direct. So I'm thinking of doing that, something along those lines today. Hi Janet and Louisa, Maria Luisa. I have my printed reference over here, which is something I don't always do, but I have been throughout this series of portraits. I have been printing the reference, which I actually really enjoy. I put like a white layer over it so I don't use so much black ink. That lightens it a bit. It also makes some of the details in the shadow more visible than they would be if it was really dark. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I used to draw here and have my iPad here, but now, I don't know, somehow I just changed it and I print it, and then the iPad, I don't have to worry about it falling off. And I don't have to have another screen on. So let's draw Sid. Also from the Kanyo community. Most of these portraits that we've been doing are people from the Kanyo reference sharing chat, wonderful creative people, and visit, that's SYY0H_ to also see some more great work, and thank you so much for sharing your reference photo with us. What am I going to do? I'm thinking similar to yesterday. I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on the shadows, the light side. I'm not going to be thinking too much about what's going on in the shadows. There is this awesome rim of light on the dark side. Like, this would be really nice to capture. But otherwise, most of what's going on the shadow side of the face, I'm not going to give much attention to. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. It's nice to see you all here. And we'll get into today's at least 10-minute portrait. And I hope there's enough ink left in this pen, because we moved house. The syringe that I used to put the ink into the... Oh, there it is. We'll see. Let's start drawing. It was really cool seeing that so many of you yesterday who were drawing along, that you also used calligraphy pens. It's so great. I like these pens. Yeah, so it would have been interesting now had I just continued, because I've just spent the last 2 hours sketching. And I was using graphite and blending stump. And this feels like changing gear now, because it's a really different flow and approach using the calligraphy pen compared to the pushing around graphite with a blending stump. And if any of you are curious about the Tuesday sketch sessions in Zoom, come and check it out, because I love it. It's so much fun. And if you don't want to pose, you don't have to pose. You can just hang out, draw along, watch people doing entertaining things as they are drawn by other people. Probably get to meet my kids, because they like to sneak in instead of going to bed. Although Icon was pretty quiet this time. He just sat next to me and played with my kneaded erasers. Horik has a question. Yes, please ask. Not regarding the current study too much. It doesn't ask anything. You can ask me anything. It doesn't have to be about drawing. It doesn't have to be about this. I'm happy for any question. Feel free to ask. That goes for all of you. You can ask me anything. I like questions. I'm good at talking. Hi, Alyssa. Oh, this is such great reference, right? And this is cool because I saw this. I took a screenshot and I was like, oh, could I use your reference in a live stream? And then between seeing it and knowing, oh, I want to use this in a live stream, I've seen people in the Kanyo chat doing work based on this. And Alfie, who we drew, I think, was it day 4 or 5 maybe? Alfie has done a drawing from this very same reference. And so that's something I love. It's going to be great seeing what you all do. But it's this thing that these images exist, and that there's just a whole bunch of people with access to them that get inspired by seeing such cool reference, and a lot of people... you can tell when someone has shared a reference that that a lot of people really like a lot of people will work from the same reference, and it's always interesting to see what it is that makes it a popular reference. Because there are lots of images which will be shared which maybe no one will ever work from, but maybe they will. But there are definitely certain images which strike a chord with many of the people in that group who then choose to work from them. So I really like this super fine line quality that you can get with this pen if you're just like drawing with the corner of the nib, and then you can just put down so much ink. I like the versatility in these pens. This is interesting. This light here, okay, here, because I don't want to worry too much about what's happening in the shadows, but I do want these highlights, because just that little highlight on the shadow side I think is going to be really cool. And there's a bit of brighter hair in the darkness here, but although I do see the eye in there, and there are things happening that we could draw if we had more time and if we felt like it, I'm just not going to. And I was wondering today, because I thought it would be nice to have it be darker than Eric's was yesterday, that I may, once I put some ink down, I may get the brush to push some of that ink around and get it darker, get the background darker. So Horik, where is your question? Please ask your question. I want to know what your question is. And anyone. I didn't have so much time, because between the Zoom session and being here, I was also putting Ike into bed. And but usually I say in the chat, the live chat before we get started, I share the Discord server, which I'd love you to post to and join the Discord server if you feel so inclined. And I also say, ask me anything, because I am totally happy for you to ask me absolutely anything. All right, here's the question. When I draw pretty young girls with very soft faces, I'm struggling to get the face looking not flat, but adding shadows and wrinkles makes them look old. Paper stuff works, but without it, yes. That I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's something that I have addressed in the Sunday workshop series. I've talked about exactly that, and there are shadow shapes which are not as strong. So often within these like really frontal, evenly lit references, there will be subtler shapes. So they might be highlight shapes. They might be like mid-tone shapes, but it's not like wrinkles and facial hair and these wonderful things that you often make it so easy to draw, or they can be really helpful landmarks while drawing. And if you have a really smooth, unblemished face to draw, it can be so hard to put things in the right place. I know exactly the challenge of which you speak. And hi, Lewis. So cool that you're here, Lewis. Lewis has had wild wind on the Canary Islands, tearing out trees and destroying things. And so it's really good to have you here, Lewis. I hope you and everyone affected by the winds is doing well and safe and have all you need. So once I'm finished with this, I will show you if I can find it. I did a drawing talking about exactly that, about learning to see and use those shapes in a way that that you can still kind of keep that youthful look. You don't have to go too heavy-handed with it, but there will be super subtle shapes that we can use to help. This looks wild right now. But I have an idea. I'm going to get a brush and water and push some of this ink around. So thank you for asking that question, Horik, and that's something we can totally address. Here I've already kind of drawn all the faces, and this is a really strong stark image. So as you said, it's a question not necessarily related to this, but I know what you're talking about. And there are some reference images or some like classic, I don't know, fashion magazine kind of things that sometimes would maybe be like, wow, that's so hard, there's like nothing to draw. And I tend to avoid working from such images. Like if there's nothing there to draw from, then it's hard, and I just feel like it's not as interesting to try and do it. But that being said, it can be interesting, and maybe some things that we kind of have an aversion to drawing, that maybe we can really learn by pushing ourselves to try and figure out how to draw that thing. This looks really interesting right now. The 10-minute timer just went off. That looks cool, like from some very raw, brutal comics. Yeah, it does look cool like that. Oh, I want to do more, but right now it's like, I just want to like fill in some more. I took a photo, but I'm going to keep going because I had this idea of like the background being dark, but if it's watered down, maybe it will still be dark, but have that initial kind of chunky, inky stuff going on. And I will see. I saw this sketch today that I'm thinking about in relation to what I've just been talking about with the finding shapes that can help us find our way in the drawing. And it was, as I was talking about it, it was from the reference of Jada, which we worked from on like, when was that? Day 7 maybe. All right, is that it? Does that look better with the background, or was it like better before? Alyssa says, I've come to realize that what's considered flattering lighting is bad for artists. Yeah, I personally like really dramatic lighting, so that's what I usually look for in a reference. Yeah, it's totally. When I have drawn portraits of people, and sometimes people that I know, or I'll take photos and they might be like, there's some really harsh lighting and they're just about to eat or something, like these typically unflattering moments, photographic moments that people maybe don't want captured of themselves, but I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And sometimes I like do these drawings and stuff, and Kira, my wife, she'll be like, I don't know if people want to see these kind of images of themselves. And I'm like, it's just so good. It's just such a, like, it's always just about the shadows, the shapes, like what makes it compelling to look at and compelling to work on and to draw. And it's funny, yeah, because I then see these like potentially unflattering things, but I just see that there's just this beauty in the shapes that it becomes so clearly defined, and it's so expressive, and it's not necessarily flattering or beautiful in a conventional sense, but what does that even mean? So yeah, it's really interesting just to kind of be inspired by those kind of images. All right, I like that now. That's getting darker with the background was cool. When it was still kind of grey, I was like, wow, what's going on? And maybe I'm just wondering about like some of the strands in the hair, and this brush is like splitting up, so it's a bit, just using the kind of dry brush scratchy marks to put in some like self-drawn hair like that. That's it, that's hair. Cool. So Horik says, yeah, agreed. But I also have the artsy need to be able to draw everything. Yes. So I enjoy finding weird mobile phone pics like on Flickr. They're sometimes more lively. Yeah, and that's... So I've also recently mentioned like the thing of being presented with images that I would normally kind of shy away from. Be like, I don't want to draw that. But that it can be really interesting to then do it anyway. I got to look through this stack of drawings. I thought I saw this drawing over here today. So I'm stopping now. That was a bit over 10 minutes, but I feel like the initial important part was here, yes. The light side of the face was captured within 10 minutes. So what's this? Do I have... Maybe even have the reference still here somewhere. This is my stack of drawings, the sketches from this series. So I have this really cool collection from the month accumulating. And somewhere I also put all the references. And then I'll be able to show you about these shapes I'm talking about. And it's maybe, yeah, here. So here's a little, what size paper am I using? This is A5 paper. This is Hahnemuhle toned watercolor paper. That's what I'm using. The textured part of the face, that scratchy stuff in the shadows, it's cool, right? So here, these two alongside each other, I think it's interesting because I really enjoyed yesterday's drawing and thought that would be cool to work on that again. And so this week we're getting darker and darker, but I'm also starting to think about the idea of illumination because Sunday I'm going to be teaching a workshop, bringing that light to the darkness and focusing on this idea of illumination is something I'm going to in the coming days be working towards and thinking about in the portraits. I just realized I think the glasses would be cooler because it was just a little bit of highlight just to lose the frame a bit more. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Okay. So here, Jada is fairly, there are still shapes in here, but it's fairly evenly lit. We've got like a light source which is just slightly above, which already makes it helpful because it was like a full frontal, like a ring light or something like that, which would just be like totally flat. But this has some elevation to the light source. We can see bouncing off of the hair here. And so what was interesting in this one was to look at the shapes. There are these really cool shapes around the eyes. And because the first drawing I did in the 10-minute portrait live stream, drawing Jada, I did the hair and the face, and then I started like the outline of the face, and then I was drawing into it, and I realized like, oh, I've put the eyes in the wrong place. I don't have enough space for the chin, everything. So that was this one. And as I was drawing this, I was like, oh no, because I had already defined the outline of the face. And I was like, oh, this is not in the right place. And if I had looked at the shadow shapes to help me find where to put the eyes, the nose and the mouth, then I wouldn't have run into the problems that I did. So then I redrew it during the workshop on shapes and shading and shadow a couple of weeks ago. And so I was talking about the shadow shapes, which are quite faint. It's still like within the contrast and the tonal variation that we have here. It's super bright, these shapes, from under the eyebrow, down the side of the nose, the bottom of the nose, but we do have a shape which is like wrapping all the way around here, and using that quite faint shape to find the way around here. And I'm pretty sure I started this drawing by drawing that shape first, and then that gave me the information I needed to put the eyes in the right place. And I can see some, like, the proportion, the nose is maybe a bit big, but the proportions here I think are much better. Like, it worked out a lot better than this one. And I noticed that while I was doing this, I was like, well, I could have gone about that differently. And recognizing the shapes here, drawing them to find the way to put them there, that was, I think this is a drawing that part of it I like more than what happened here. So by using those light shadow shapes, mid-tone shapes, light shapes, you can also I often talk about shadow shapes, and you can like flip that around and think about the light shapes. So if I were to look at the light, there's also like really interesting light shapes that we have, and you could delineate those softly, not too heavy, because then it's going to be like it become too intense. And that's the thing, like if you go too heavy-handed with the lines on such a smooth face, that it can very quickly look like wrinkly and older, and it might not be what you're going for. So if you just gently put some light lines down, then those shapes, by putting them down, that will help you find where to put the other shapes. That's I'm still live. Hi Salish. I started later because it was after the Zoom session. Yeah, Horik, you love it. That's definitely very helpful. And the shapes around the mouth, well, yeah. Yeah, right. So that's a very relevant thing, which your question totally tied into what I was talking about recently about this. So I started learning to see these shadow shapes, and it's like, oh, you see shadows, and that can help you put things in the right place, because that shadow is kind of pointing to that, and it's in alignment with that, and there's all this extra information when you have these cool shadow shapes to draw. Like this one had really clear, the core shadow shape down here to help find the way around that one. And typically the reference that I choose has really cool shadow shapes. But sometimes there are images where it's a lot flatter, it's frontal, and it's not as obvious. But once you start learning to see the shadow shapes, then you can also flip it and be like, let's look at the light shapes. And it gives you all this extra information to draw from. Because if you're just thinking, it's like just the dark, the eyebrows, the eyelid, the eye, the nostrils, and the mouth. And if you're just trying to do that without anything in between, then it can be pretty challenging. It can also work out, and it can be really cool. But it can be pretty challenging. So yeah, that was today. That was an extra little looking at light shapes tutorial after doing this one, which was super fun. So thank you, Sid. Thank you for this awesome opportunity to draw from your wonderful photo, and share your stuff to the Discord server if you like. Do I have a link? Is this link going to work? Maybe. And if you would like to join the illumination workshop on Sunday, you can go to dylansara.com. Here is the link to the Discord server. You can share your work to the daily reference chat there, which is a fun place to see people's work, because it's like super high resolution and nice to see everyone's sketches up close and personal. Yeah, and I'll just put dylansara.com is my website, and you can book a ticket for the Sunday workshop there if you like. Yes, I should have my buy me a coffee link as well, but it's in the description. If you're really keen and you'd like to buy me a coffee, feel free to do so. I enjoy drinking coffee and tea. And like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's lovely having you here and drawing along, and I really look forward to the coming references that I have lined up, because there are some really good ones. I feel like they're all really good ones, and I'm excited about the ones that we are going to be drawing in the coming few days. So thank you for being here in this time of darkness together, creating and just sharing time together and sharing our focus and attention in creating something. I just saw another. I need this highlight shouldn't be here. All right.